You think you're just unlucky. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong people. Everyone seems to be moving on, relationships, families, new lives, and you're stuck in this strange quiet, wondering what's wrong with you. But here's the uncomfortable truth no one explains. Your psyche is not punishing you. It's protecting you. Sometimes life doesn't take people away from you. It takes you away from the places where you kept abandoning yourself. What looks like rejection is often a psychological reset. Old patterns collapsing. Old attractions losing strength. The chemistry you had with chaos finally stopping. And if you're alone right now, there is a reason. Not mystical fluff, not just divine timing. A deep inner process that Jung understood better than anyone. In this video, we're going to walk inside that process. Why your season of isolation is not an accident, and how understanding it may be the exact step that opens the door to a completely different kind of love. On the surface, it feels simple. I'm alone because something is wrong with me. That belief doesn't always appear as a clear sentence in your mind. It often shows up in softer, more poisonous forms. I'm too much. I'm not enough. I always scare people away. I miss my chance. You scroll through photos of couples, weddings, baby showers, slow Sunday mornings with someone's head resting on another pillow. Life seems to be moving forward for everyone else while you sit in a quiet room, staring at your phone, feeling like you were left behind. With time, loneliness stops being just a phase. It starts to feel like an identity. You don't just feel alone. You start to believe you are the kind of person people don't stay with. That is the first invisible prison. Not the lack of a partner, but the meaning you attach to that lack. In psychology, this is called meaning-making. The mind isn't a neutral camera recording what happens. It's a storyteller. A relationship ends. The neutral version is, a chapter of my life closed. The story version is, I ruin everything, or I wasn't good enough. One painful event becomes a script. The script quietly repeats inside you for years. And the more you repeat it, the more you start to move like someone who believes it is true. You agree to be treated as an option. You stay in almost relationships because, at least it's something. You lower your voice, your needs, your preferences. You feel grateful for crumbs. On the outside, you are alone. On the inside, you abandon yourself first, hoping that if you ask for very little, no one will ever leave. Carl Jung didn't focus only on visible behavior. He spoke about the hidden stories that drive us from the inside, what he called complexes. A complex is not just an insecurity. It's a whole inner structure, memories, emotions, beliefs, body reactions, all organized around one painful idea. In relationships, a complex might revolve around, if I show who I really am, I'll be left. I'm always the one who cares more. Love always comes with humiliation. Maybe nobody said these things to you directly, but you absorbed them anyway. You watched a parent stay in a cold or chaotic relationship. You felt tension in the house whenever someone tried to speak their truth. You saw that love often arrived together with criticism, silence, distance, or emotional games. Your nervous system learned that closeness is dangerous. Your unconscious took notes. Now, as an adult, every quiet night alone seems to confirm the original message. This is who I am. Someone people don't choose. But what feels like proof is often only a familiar lens. This is where the story becomes truly damaging. When you believe you are alone because you are defective, you stop looking any deeper. There is no curiosity, only self-blame. You don't examine the types of people you were drawn to. You don't notice how often you ignored your own intuition. You don't see how your body tensed up around healthy love, but relaxed in the presence of chaos, because chaos felt like home. Everything collapses into one conclusion. There is something wrong with me. That conclusion breeds shame. Shame doesn't transform you. It just makes you smaller, easier to use, easier to dismiss, easier for others to walk away from, and easier for you to walk away from yourself. But from a Jungian perspective, this story is incomplete. Your psyche is not obsessed with making you comfortable. It is obsessed with making you whole. Sometimes that means letting old patterns fall apart. People leave. Doors close. Attempts at connection fail again and again. On the outside, it looks like proof that you are unlovable. On the inside, something else is happening. Your old script is losing power. The part of you that used to accept almost anything just to avoid being alone starts to hesitate. What you once called chemistry with the wrong people no longer feels intoxicating in the same way. Your system begins to rebel against the life it used to tolerate. That inner rebellion is the real beginning of your current solitude. The psychological reason you are alone right now does not start with the people who left. It starts with the moment your deeper self stopped cooperating with the patterns that kept hurting you. And to understand that fully, we need to look at those patterns, how they were formed, how they chose for you, and why they had to break. That is the next step in this journey. Before you ever chose a partner, something else chose for you. Not fate, not the universe, your early patterns. Long before you had a dating app profile or a type, your nervous system was already learning what love feels like. And it didn't learn it from poems or movies. It learned it from the people who raised you, the atmosphere in your home, the way emotions were or weren't handled. For some people, love felt like safety, warmth, presence. For others, love felt like walking on eggshells, being careful not to say the wrong thing, trying to be useful, agreeable, invisible. If, as a child, you felt you had to earn attention, you didn't just store that as a memory. You built a pattern. I have to work for connection. I have to fix, help, entertain, rescue. I need to be less of a burden. Jung would say, those patterns sink into the unconscious. They become an inner template that quietly shapes what you are attracted to and what feels normal to you later in life. This is why many people end up in relationships that are painful but familiar. The kind, emotionally available person feels strange, almost boring. The unpredictable one, half warm, half absent, feels magnetic. Your mind calls it chemistry. Your history calls it repetition. Your old patterns are not just preferences. They are survival strategies that once made sense in a particular emotional climate. If love at home meant pleasing everyone, you learned to read micro-expressions, tones of voice, silences between sentences. You became hyper-attuned. You noticed when something was off long before anyone named it. That sensitivity made you skilled at adapting to others. But it also made you vulnerable to people who like to be the center of gravity in every relationship. So as an adult, you meet someone who is inconsistent, self-absorbed, emotionally unavailable. On some level, your body already knows exactly how to move around that kind of person. You know how to adjust, to minimize conflict, to hold the emotional weight of the connection. It feels intense. It feels familiar. It feels like home, even when it hurts. From a Jungian view, this is the power of a complex in action. A relational complex doesn't just influence how you think. It tilts your entire orientation. You walk into a room full of people. You don't consciously scan for the emotionally distant one, but your unconscious does. It recognizes something in their posture, eyes, tone, energy. And then, almost mysteriously, you're drawn in their direction. Later, you call it coincidence. It isn't. A part of you is trying to resolve an old story by repeating it. The child in you, who once felt unseen or unvalued, is still trying to win love from the same type of emotional structure. Different face, same dynamic. And so the pattern keeps choosing. You think you're making a free choice. In reality, your past is choosing for you, until you can see it clearly. This is one of the reasons you're alone right now, even if you don't realize it. There comes a point when your psyche can no longer tolerate the cost of those choices. Every new repetition becomes more unbearable. The hangover from each relationship lasts longer. Your body starts to protest. The late-night anxiety. The tension in your chest when a message is left unread. The dread before difficult conversations. The exhaustion of always trying to manage someone else's moods. You reach a threshold. Your old self can keep going, but your deeper self can't. Sometimes that's when everything collapses at once. You end a relationship that you've been slowly shrinking inside of. A situationship fizzles out, and for the first time, you don't beg for closure. You look at an old flame and finally see the full pattern, not just the moments of connection. From the outside, it looks like another failure in love. On the inside, something very different is happening. Your unconscious is withdrawing support from the old pattern. The complex that once pulled you toward the same story now begins to loosen its grip. And when that happens, your life often falls into a strange in-between. No more intense drama. No more chaotic highs and lows. But also no one new that truly fits. This gap can feel like punishment. It is not. It's the transitional space between what you used to choose automatically and what you are not yet ready to receive. Right now, your isolation may not be a sign that you are broken. It may be a sign that your psyche refuses to keep using the same template. It's as if something inside you said, "No more. No more chasing, shrinking, begging, proving. No more calling anxiety love." That refusal breaks the pattern. It also breaks the automatic magnetism you once felt for the wrong people. But the new pattern, the one that can recognize and welcome healthier love, is still being formed. This is why Jung insisted that we must become conscious of our complexes. What remains unconscious rules your life, and you call it fate. What becomes conscious opens a different future. Your old patterns chose for you for a long time. Now they are losing their power. That loss feels like emptiness. In truth, it is space. And in that space, something else can begin. The inner rebellion against your old life. The quiet refusal to go back. And the first signs that your loneliness is not just absence. It's the clearing of a stage. The next step is to understand that rebellion more clearly. What happens when your psyche starts saying no to everything that once felt like love? There is a moment most people don't notice until much later. On paper, nothing dramatic happens. Inside, everything quietly shifts. The same situations that you used to tolerate begin to feel unbearable. The same type of person you once found irresistible now makes your body tighten. The games, the waiting, the crumbs, they don't hit the same way anymore. This is the point where your psyche starts to rebel. You don't suddenly become stronger overnight. What happens is more subtle. The cost of repeating the old pattern becomes too high. The late-night anxiety is no longer just part of it. The confusion, the mixed signals, the emotional roller coaster stop feeling romantic and start feeling sickening. Your system begins to recognize that what it called love was many times adrenaline, fear, and hope mixed together. From a Jungian perspective, this is a sign that something deeper in you has awakened. The unconscious is no longer fully supporting your old choices. The complex is still there, but it's cracked. Its story no longer explains your life as well as it used to. You notice yourself answering messages more slowly. You stop chasing people who give you very little and then disappear. You feel a quiet no inside when someone tries to pull you into a familiar chaos. On the outside, it may look like you are becoming cold or closed off. On the inside, it's more like a refusal. A refusal to keep paying with your nervous system for a few moments of connection. This inner rebellion is rarely glamorous. It often looks like exhaustion. You don't have the same energy to fix, to convince, to explain. The old performance, being the understanding one, the patient one, the one who waits, drains you faster than it used to. So you step back. You stop texting first. You let some stories end instead of resuscitating them again and again. At first, this can feel like losing. Fewer people around, fewer conversations, fewer almost relationships to distract you. But psychologically, something crucial is happening. You are withdrawing emotional fuel from patterns that once fed on your attention, your availability, your constant yes. Jung often spoke about the self, the deeper organizing center of the psyche that pulls you toward wholeness. The self does not care if your ego feels lonely for a while. It cares that you stop betraying yourself just to avoid emptiness. So piece by piece, it pushes you away from environments, dynamics, and people that keep you fragmented. You may notice invitations that used to excite you now feel heavy. Certain conversations feel fake, like you're acting in a role that no longer fits. When someone shows obvious red flags, you can't unsee them anymore. This is the rebellion, not loud, not dramatic, but steady. It's your deeper self saying, I won't go back there, even if it means being alone for a while. And here is where your current isolation begins to make psychological sense. When your psyche stops cooperating with your old life, there is always a gap. The old cast of characters starts to fade out. But the new people, the ones you can meet as your fuller self, have not entered yet. So for a time, the stage is half empty. From the outside, you are just single. From the inside, there is a quiet reconstruction going on. Your standards are being rewritten. Your sense of what is acceptable is changing. Your nervous system is learning to calm down without the constant drama it used to crave. This in-between is uncomfortable, sometimes painfully so. It can feel like the universe has forgotten about you. But through a psychological lens, it's the opposite. Your solitude is not random. It's the direct consequence of an inner refusal. No more repeating the same story. And when that refusal is real, many people will disappear. Not because you are unlovable, but because the version of you that kept them in your life is gone. What comes next is what fills that gap. The work of meeting yourself in this new space, and slowly raising the kind of love your inner world can actually sustain. That is where your standards, your shadow, and your solitude begin to work together. Shadow work often begins in very unglamorous ways. It's not a candlelit ritual or a perfect journal spread. It's that uncomfortable honesty when you finally admit to yourself, I stayed in that relationship because I was afraid of being alone. I kept chasing them because I needed to feel chosen, not because they were good for me. I called it chemistry, but it was really my anxiety trying to earn love. This kind of clarity is painful, but it marks a turning point. Instead of focusing only on what other people did to you, you start to see the role your own patterns played in keeping you attached to them. In Jungian terms, this is where the shadow steps into the light. The shadow is not just the dark or aggressive part of you. It also holds the parts you hid to be loved. Your anger, your needs, your limits, your intuition, your desire to be treated with respect. For years, you might have pushed those sides of yourself down to keep relationships going. You avoided conflict, swallowed your no, pretended you were fine. Now those exiled parts begin to speak. They no longer accept crumbs, half-truths, or constant uncertainty as the price of having someone. As you listen to this shadow material, your standards stop being abstract ideas and start becoming real boundaries. You no longer just say you want respect. You notice when someone consistently ignores your feelings. You no longer just say you want emotional availability. You pay attention to whether a person actually shows up, not only when it's convenient. You stop romanticizing chaos. You stop calling mixed signals passion. You start noticing how you feel in your body around someone, tight, small, anxious, or grounded, calm, present. When this shift happens, many people simply don't fit anymore. Some drift away because you are no longer so easy to use. Others become uncomfortable because you're not playing your old role. The rescuer, the fixer, the endlessly understanding one. Where you used to say yes automatically, you now say, I need time to think. Where you used to chase, you now let space exist. You don't fight to keep every connection alive. You allow some of them to end without making it a personal failure. From the outside, it can look like you are pushing love away. Your phone is quieter. Your social circle feels smaller. The intense, intoxicating dynamics that once filled your days are gone. But psychologically, the opposite is happening. You are no longer available for connections that demand you betray yourself. Your solitude expands precisely because your standards are no longer negotiable. The relationships that were built on your self-abandonment crumble first. Jung spoke of individuation as the process of becoming more fully yourself. Not the mask you learned to wear, but the person underneath. As you integrate your shadow, you reclaim the right to have needs, to take up space, to disappoint people who only loved you when you were convenient. This inevitably narrows the field. Fewer people will step forward when you're no longer offering endless emotional labor in exchange for scraps of affection. Yet the space that opens up is not empty by accident. It is cleared on purpose. Your life becomes quieter, but also more honest. In that quieter space, your loneliness changes texture. It is no longer just the ache of not having someone beside you. It becomes the weight of standing beside yourself for the first time. That weight can feel heavy at times, but it is also a sign of substance, of self taking shape. And it prepares the ground for a different kind of connection, one that doesn't demand you shrink, silence your instincts, or negotiate with your own truth just to avoid being alone. At first, solitude feels like a sentence, proof that something is wrong with you, proof that everyone else is moving forward while you stay behind. But after your rebellion against old patterns and the work of facing your shadow, the same solitude starts to change. It's still uncomfortable at times, but it stops being just a void. It becomes space, an empty room that finally belongs to you. Instead of only asking why you're alone, you slowly start to notice who you are becoming in this time alone. Here, the inner work turns into small, concrete choices. You build a life that doesn't wait for a partner to begin. You take care of your body because you want to feel at home in it, not just to be chosen. You create routines that respect your energy instead of constantly stretching yourself thin. You give yourself small, genuine pleasures. A quiet morning, a walk, a page of writing, a hobby that absorbs you. These gestures send a clear message to your psyche. I am worth showing up for, even when I am the only one here. From a Jungian perspective, the self is slowly moving to the center of your life. You stop orbiting around other people's moods or attention and start orbiting around something steadier inside you. Love is still deeply desired, but it's no longer a rescue mission. It becomes something that can add to a life that already has structure and meaning. Your standards stop being just words. They're reflected in how you live. You begin to ask, almost without thinking, does this person fit the rhythm I've built, or do they pull me back into the chaos I just left? Your loneliness also changes texture. Some evenings, the silence still aches. On others, it feels clean. You notice you're no longer checking your phone obsessively or bending your boundaries just to keep someone around. The quiet is not always pleasant, but it is honest. You're no longer paying for company with pieces of yourself. That honesty becomes a filter. People who need you empty so they can feel big find less room in your life. People capable of presence and reciprocity feel more drawn to the steadiness you've created. There is no promise of a perfect story, but psychologically, something crucial has shifted. You are no longer offering yourself to anyone just to avoid being alone. You are building the inner home where a different kind of love can finally land and stay. You are not alone because you are broken. You are alone because your old patterns finally stopped working. Your loneliness is not a verdict. It's a reset. This quiet season is not proof that no one wants you. It's proof that you're no longer available for what hurts you. You are not behind. You are in the exact chapter where your standards are being rebuilt. Now you choose. Go back to the old story just to fill the silence. Or let this silence protect the person you are becoming. If this video helped you see your solitude differently, like this video, subscribe to Hidden Mind, and share it with someone who also feels left behind. And tell me in the comments, simply and honestly, what are you no longer willing to accept just to avoid being alone?